This episode is brought to you by Bellator's Publishing, bringing stories to the world that last forever.
Today on Faithfully Fantasy, who are the best from the class to who are the worst? She and Dain, they are the worst. Violet has a really good excuse, is because she can control Tairn's power. Dain is not doing good neither, and it seems that it's exactly the same thing.
Melgren found out that it was a rune that meant that he couldn't see the marked ones. And I wonder if he thought, well, if there's a rune for that, there's a rune to reverse it.
When this storm coming to Violet, when she's about to cross the parapet, It was Theophanie.
Yeah, it's definitely Theophanie.
It was trying to kill Violet because... Hello and welcome to Faithfully Fantasy,
the husband and wife podcast talking all things Onyx Storm.
I'm JC.
And I'm Sean.
And today we cover chapters 55 to 57. And just heads up, we use strong language and explore adult themes.
This episode will contain spoilers from all three books, as well as snippets of information we've had from Rebecca Yarros since the release of the third book.
And before we start with the squad brief, imagine having early access to our episodes. While everyone waits for Thursday, you'll enjoy them every Tuesday. Plus, enjoy bonus content every month and ad-free listening. You can have all this by becoming a supporter. And here's the best part. You can try it for free and cancel anytime. For the best deal, visit faithfullyfantasy.com or simply subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for instant access. Don't miss out and become part of our community of supporters.
Also, if you're enjoying the show, please take a second to rate us wherever you're listening. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all of it. It helps more fantasy lovers find us, and it's one of the easiest ways to support what we do. A quick tap and you've made our day. We are getting so close to diving into the world of Ceres and Kingfisher. If you haven't read it yet, there's still time to read Quicksilver before we start our new season on July 24th. We will be wrapping up our coverage of Onyx Storm with an episode live on Instagram, so keep an eye on our Instagram for more information.
And now, without further ado, let's get into a squad brief.
We're entering those all-important last 100 pages. Violet is out of bed, hurrah! And we're back in Runes class, where the lesson of the day is how to manhandle magic without it exploding. Neither Cat or Felix is throwing Violet a pity party. Cat is criticising her runes, and Felix is tearing her a new one over her battle tactics and dragging her back out to wield. We get a sneak peek into Xaden's suspicious inbox, and just when we think we're getting another throne scene, nope, denied. Instead, we get a lesson in dream walking, which sounds cool until it becomes a waking nightmare. Theophanie has mirror. Back to the assembly chamber, and this time it's not recreational. We see Brennan's strategy skills in action as we pick a single mission and prepare to ride into Drathus.
Okay, now is when we need to be really careful with everything here, because according with Rebecca Yarros, these last 100 pages is when they had so many gems hiding.
Yeah, and I have so much to say about chapter 55. I think like the bulk of the show is going to be chapter 55. It's so important.
Yes, let's go for a history lesson and let's dive deep and see what the past is hiding about the future.
Chapter 55.
Epigraph.
As our largest province, Tyrrendor provides the most conscripts for our forces. However, the strength of Navarre isn't only found in Tyrrish soldiers, but also in the province's most valuable resource, Talladium. Losing it would doom Navarre. On Tyrrish History, a complete accounting, 3rd edition, by Captain Fitzgibbons.
Well, for me, this is just one thing clear. Tyrrendor is just a sleeping giant and just waiting for being awake. And Caldier is just pressing the buttons.
Yeah, Tyrrendor's biding her time, isn't she? So we get quite a lot from this epigraph, I think. Tyrrendor is the largest province. They have the largest portion of the army. Mm-hmm. They also have the most valuable resource. So my theory is that they will ultimately rule over Navarre again. I think we have that from like the foreshadowing about there being a queen. It's odd, isn't it, that the kingdom is effectively ruled by the smallest province of Chaldea. I think Tauri will die in book 4. I don't think he's making it out. I think Xaden will be the one to make the killing blow. And I think everything's heading to a Holden-Xaden face-off. Although Xaden won't be the Duke of Tyrrendor necessarily in book 4, I still think everything's heading that way, to a big battle between Tyrrendor and Navarre. And Tyrrendor will come out on top and be the new leader of Navarre.
Yeah, I still think there's still tension between Chaldea and Tyrrendor. This just started was just because the attack from the Venom, but we end the book before there's like a resolution or a agreement of peace between Tyrrendor and Chaldea, so that is still going.
Yeah. And it's such a waste of forces. Tauri has Holden and a load of, well, we definitely know infantry. I don't know whether there's riders there as well. There probably would be.
Yeah.
But what a waste. They're just like setting themselves up to fail. All those riders should be focused on the actual enemy, which is the Venom. It's bizarre. So the alloy that makes up the wards and in the daggers is made of palladium, another rare metal, which we don't know anything about, and dragon eggshells. I wanted to dig a little bit into palladium because it says losing that resource will doom Navarre.
Yes.
So it must be really important. We know it's important. We know it's in the wards, and we know it is what's used to kill Venom. I did a bit of research, and there's something in real life, an element called palladium, which is used to refer to something protective in like history. And then palladium became an element. It's a rare element, and it's used in like removing emissions from. But this is not important. But anyway, it was historically used to refer to something protective. My theory about the palladium is that it is like crystallized magic. So it's an ore, but I think it is like essentially an inert form of magic that when it reacts with the dragon shells, it then becomes magical again, or it then becomes something that can actually fight against the Venom. So it makes me think of blood clots, like the earth is trying to stop the magic from leaking out or being stolen out. And it's like possibly in the past, there were people in Tyrrendor stealing the magic, and there's an abundance of it there because it's like clotting and the earth is trying to cling on to the magic.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a weird thought, but that's what it made me think of.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we know there's magic in the ground. At the moment, we don't know exactly how that magic goes there. We maybe think maybe the Iris are the one to put the magic on the ground or something, because they say they're magic. So like they don't need extract magic from the ground. So how the magic goes there?
I think it's different magic. I think the earth magic is just magic of the earth. I don't think it's necessarily put there by anyone.
Yeah.
Just Mother Nature.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if maybe, yes, the Stellarian is something that is just absorbing the magic from the ground. And then that's why it's so valuable in this world when the magic plays a big role. Yeah.
You know how Bodhi's magic doesn't work against Theophanie?
Yes.
And there's this bit weird thing about how the magic is different, which I'm not sure we've had an explainer on. It's all
kind of a different frequency or something like that.
Yeah, it's all a bit complicated. But the magic from the ground definitely works. So the magic from palladium definitely works against the Venom. And it definitely works like to power the wards, which makes me think it's the same type of magic. So that's where I feel like it's crystallized magic. So we know it works against the Venom. What is the situation with the wards and the griffins? That's not the type of magic, is it? That we suspect that that's a rune, a particular rune, because we don't suspect that. That definitely is a rune, because they removed that.
Yeah.
So it's not actually to do with the protection against the griffins was a deliberate decision made by Warwick. It isn't because the magic's any different. But I think it's confirmation that the magic is the same as what the Venin are channeling.
So we start with a chapter, and the chapter is with Violet and the Rune class. She is still not doing great. She thinks that maybe she's still improving a little bit, but she's still one of the worst from the class. She's talking about some people as well around the class, how they're doing. We had some mentions about Body, that he's losing some classes as well. She had no clue why. Also, something that caught my attention in this class, once Violet was going through like who are the best from the class to who are the worst, she and Dain, they are the worst. Violet has a really good excuse, is because she can control Tairn's power, because it's so much power that she's getting through him that we saw already that's why she was working more with Andarna's power. Dain is not doing good neither. And it seems that it's exactly the same thing, that maybe Cath is too powerful or had the same power as Tairn has, because he mentioned in Fourth Wind and the first chapters the dragon channels a lot of power on him.
Yeah, it's another clue that Cath has very, very strong power, and we know that we're about to see Dain give some of his power via Sloane in the next chapter. So, well, not the next chapter. In the next chapter we cover next week, Serena Dino on Reddit pointed out something really good that I just don't think anybody's talking about around Cath. Another clue that Cath seems to be this like super dragon is that when they are on the Isle Kingdoms, I think it might be Zelna, they all are absolutely exhausted, all the dragons, and they have to rest. Cath is the only one that stays up watch, and he is like this machine. He does not need a rest. And I think there's several things. That the reason that this sentence is in there, we know Dain is good at languages. We know Violet is good at languages. There's no reason why they wouldn't be able to learn the runes. It's a monosyllabic language. The only reason is they can't manhandle the power. The other flip side of that is that Bodhi and Cat are really good at it. Bodhi is up there with Cat, so he is the best rider at runes. We know he's tierish, so we know he's a marked one. He's obviously been learning the runes for ages, but this to me suggests that Bodhi's dragon is just not that powerful. He obviously can bend and shape the runes, and I think it's there for a reason. I don't think it means that people with powerful dragons are always going to be bad at runes, but I think she specifically put Bodhi at the top and Dain at the bottom to show that Bodhi is not strong enough and Dain is stronger than we could ever know.
Yes, so there's been a couple of references that Dain has a lot of power, like Sloane, and something that we'll see in next episodes. She mentioned this, that he shouldn't have that power. But we don't know yet if it's just because the dragon or it's because Dain has done something so he can channel more power from the dragon. But here in the rune, it's like, yeah, he can't manage, control that power. And we always say like people are venom, but here it could be like another hint that the dragon could be a venom, or at least has something related because it has more power.
Well, the dragon might be taking more power from the ground than it should be. It could be that the dragon is corrupted. I do think Cath is corrupted. I have said this for ages. I know that we get really suspicious, and Rebecca Yarros just said that some dragons have stinky breath. I don't think that's a mistake. I definitely think there's something going on with Cath. I also really love the idea. So we've said that, I think we said this in our Iron Flame season, because I'm obsessed with looking at what names mean. But Atos means eagle, and Zeus obviously had the power of lightning, also had an eagle. And the eagle kind of looked after the lightning bolts, which makes me think that Dain is going to help Violet in such a big way. But then I also think he's going to kill his dragon. I think he's going to realize that Cath is corrupted and have to sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
He's going to sacrifice himself. No, Dain, no, there must be another way.
Yeah, Harry Potter reference. How new.
Right, so Quinn is offering some help to Violet, and Violet is actually willingly receiving some help for once in her life. She says it's hard to accept power from someone who's been practicing runes for such a long time. And she says, I don't remember you struggling so much before. And it turns out that she's just struggling with Tairn's power because it's so powerful. And Quinn says, yeah, I guess so, or something like that. It's not like Melgren is running around tempering runes with Codha's power, is it? So the big question is, what do we think Melgren is doing with runes? Because he's clearly doing something.
Yes, there's another reference about Melgren, and I don't know how to take it. Like the same one about Violet referring that he might take one day the mask and be a venom. Is that actually going to happen? And now here with this, that he might be making runes, which is in such a suspicious way that it's just like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that he's doing something.
So I had a thought that Melgren found out that it was a rune that meant that he couldn't see the marked ones. So the rune protected them against his signet. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if he thought, well, if there's a rune for that, there's a rune to reverse it. And he was maybe trying to make it so he could see the outcome. And then we get the letter later in this chapter that says, don't go, we'll lose. I thought, well, why would he say that? Does that mean he's seen it and they win, but he won't see the outcome he can't see the outcome if there's more than 3 marked ones? Mm-hmm. What if he's found a way to bypass this situation?
That's a good question. If there's a way to reverse
Maori's rune.
Yes.
I don't see why not. There's a rune to...
It's just like there's a room for absolutely everything.
Yeah, a rune for that. It's a rune for everything.
Yes.
It just was a bit of an odd. It jumped out at the page for me that Melgren... It's not like Melgren's doing this. Instantly thought, well, Melgren's obviously doing that then, isn't he?
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see if maybe it will come the point the marked ones and the Melgren won't see him because there are 3 together, and then find out
he can
now.
Yeah. Okay, so Felix arrives and he is pissed off with Violet. He's had a go. He said, your squad leader's already been spoken to. Ree didn't say anything about that though, did she? She hasn't reprimanded Violet the other way, which again shows that she's not...
She's more a friend than anything else.
Yeah, she might not be the leader that the squad need right now. He's really angry with Violet, the way that she should not have been at the temple. She shouldn't. But obviously he doesn't know anything about the fact that Aaric told her that's where she needed to be. And I went back and I read the warning or the instruction that Aaric gave. And he doesn't say that that's how they win the battle or that's how they win the fight. He says that's how you save Tyrrendor. So this makes me think that Aaric didn't just see that future play out just during that battle. Mm-hmm. He's seen right to the end of the book, or he's seen beyond. And he knows that she needs to be married to Xaden to save Tyrrendor, because Xaden needed the favor from the high priestess of the Dune Temple. So he sent her there so that Xaden would go there, and then the high priestess would feel like she owed him a favor. So this is just like spiraling beyond. And I think we're learning Melgren's signet is flawed. He is possibly trying to do something about it. Aaric's is far more powerful than his, not just because he's restricted to battle outcomes, but he is seeing the future.
Yes. That would be amazing if Aaric is already looking beyond, and then we will find out in book 4 the Tyrrendor is safe is just because Violet somehow has managed to, because she's the Duchess now of Tyrrendor, she managed to keep everything together. And that's all that because just one thing that he does, save the temple, And then from that, everything starts to carry on.
The real question is, would it have happened anyway?
That is like the Matrix question.
Yeah. Because how would he have seen what needed to happen? His signet, if it wouldn't have happened anyway, and he meddled in it to make it happen, his signet more is then, what do I need to do to make the best outcome?
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying. He could manipulate. He's effectively manipulating the timeline, isn't he?
Yes, pretty much like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He just look at all the possible outcomes if something has changed until finally he got with the right path.
Yeah.
So that would be amazing.
So Violet is talking to Felix and he's taking her away to Weald. And he says, is there anything else you want to tell me about your little school trip? Or whatever. He's really angry with her. Yeah. In fact, Felix is really grumpy in these next few chapters. And so is Trissa. Mm-hmm. They're obviously stressed, which is understandable.
I mean, they had the king of Chaldea sending troops. They had the venom on the other side.
Yeah.
They had wars that are falling. So
yeah.
Well, no, the wars are not falling anymore, but Traitors is about to fall.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people. So, yeah.
I'd probably be stressed in that situation as well. But anyway, she's explaining what she did. And she says, I split my bolt into 2. And he was like, great. Did you hit the target? She's like, yes, actually I did. And then she says, and not from a cloud, from the sky, or not into a cloud from the sky. Violet is figuring it out, isn't she?
Yes.
She's figuring it out that she's not just pulling the power from a cloud or from a storm or from
there has to be
anything.
Something like a natural, and she just driving maybe like the energy of the lightning to whatever she wants. She's like creating the lightning.
Yeah.
Comes.
But she pulled it from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Andana isn't currently bonded to her. She can also do the dream walking when Andana's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Is she pulling that power? Where's she pulling that power from? Tairn's power?
Yes.
Or is she able to just straight up channel from the sky? So if she had no dragons, she'd be able to... Oh my goodness. What if both dragons die and she like channels from the sky to fill the gap?
We know the rider, the channel from the ground, turned into a venom. What would happen to a rider, the channel from the sky?
Become a god?
You'd think.
Mm.
I mean, it seems there's more power in the sky.
Yeah.
But we learn, or at least Xaden explains, that maybe that's how it works. When you get a signet, you have the skill. It doesn't matter what you get, the sword, you still having the signet. And that's why Violet is still Dreamwalker even when Andana is gone. But for me, I'm not sure if that's the real reason, because the way that Leota and everyone was asking to Violet who was the first one, Andana or Tairn, and everyone said like Tairn. I think it's Andana, and precisely because she was the first one, I think no, even Leota, no, anybody can actually break like completely. So I think Violet, she was like, really unplugged from Andana.
Well, it's like a brick wall, isn't there?
Yes, but I think somehow there's still like a string that's still connected.
Yeah, there's still a window.
And there's still the reason why Andana has to come back, because maybe she can't live that long, even when they pull in that much.
She bonded, but I think Andana will have known that she bonded her first. So it's a bit suspicious, isn't it?
I think she knew. She didn't say anything because her objective was going with the Aarics. I think she was just a dragon in a mission.
Yeah.
And once maybe she learned whatever she has to learn, because I think that is when she learned how to break the bonds. Then is when she come back and she restored her original bond with Violet.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Felix is now very happy with all the stuff that was going on. And he knows as well that Violet, she need to be ready for any battle that is coming. He said that it's better she start to get exhausted now practicing that she get exhausted in a battle. So after practicing a lot, she need to go back with Brenna because she is just overdoing and Brenna has to fix it. Then they are in the assembly and Body arrives with Xaden and they're having like a really bad discussion because Xaden is pushing Body to be the next in the line. Body, he doesn't want Tyrrendor. say that, no, that is not my place. It's your place. You should be there. It's how always supposed to be. You're supposed to be the Duke and supposed to be the rider. And I find that really interesting because we thought maybe at the beginning they're supposed to be maybe infantry because they are kind of like a high social level. But he said that from the beginning he's supposed to be the rider as well.
Yeah, I don't think all people in line have to be infantry. So if you take Holden's brother, for example, they were twins, but he was obviously the younger twin. Holden was raised to be the one that would be king. The other one was allowed to be a rider. Tauri doesn't want riders in charge, but you still have the second one would be allowed to be a rider. This makes me think they're brothers. You have one who is destined to be the Duke. You have one destined to be a rider. So you split them and you leave one with the aunt and uncle who can't have children.
Yeah, I start to think that there's so many clues about it because, like you said right now, there's a comparison between Holden, Aaric, Xaden, and Body. I started really to think the body was separated when he was born to make sure that Tyrrendor is still with a line of successor, but nobody knows about it to keep it safe. Yeah,
and he's still second in line, isn't he?
Yes.
Doesn't have to be brother, but if Xaden were to have a son, then it would all work out anyway, or a daughter. We don't know what the rules are. But there are duchesses. So it could be that it doesn't matter whether it's a son. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's a son or a daughter. I kind of feel for Bodhi here because that is what he was raised to be. He was raised to be a rider. And now he's being forced to stay at home when Xaden's going out to fight. Xaden is the current Duke of Tyrrendor. I can see why he wants to be fighting for his province. He's not fighting for his province. He's fighting for Violet. He's trying to protect Violet. And Bodhi is like, why? You are supposed to be the Duke. You be the Duke. I'll go and be the rider. And Xaden's like, you've got to graduate first. And it's not about that. It's about the line of succession. Yeah, I do think Bodhi's got a point here.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree that Xaden shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff because he's supposed to be the Duke. He's supposed to be the important one, the one who needs to be careful. But because he's thinking, well, I'm going down with this burning thing, so I shouldn't be now considered as a Duke because I'm not going to be a Duke or anything.
Yeah, good point. He's already...
Yeah, he's just thinking that there's no future for me as a Duke. So better the body start to assume it.
And he's like, I'll be right here. I'll be your right fucking hand. But if you want a member of our family to sit on that throne, you're going to have to keep your shit together. And he looks at Violet as he walks out, Bodhi, and she says he meant for me to hear every single word of that. Why would Bodhi need Violet to hear that?
It's an interesting question too.
Any ideas? I don't.
I thought you were going to say something.
I know. I still wonder whether I still wonder, like, I don't know. Is he showing off? Or is he like showing Violet he can be the strong man too?
I think.
I don't really know.
Show.
Can you, if you've got any ideas, can you let us know? Why would Bodhi need Violet to hear all of that?
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
So Bodhi leaves, and Brennan, once he sees the Xaden is there, he gives some missives. One of them is from the king of Deverelly. So obviously...
that old friend.
Yes. The last time he saw that he was so ashamed of himself that he was looking to the floor and then leave.
He knows he's a Venin.
We used to think that maybe he's a Venin himself, so maybe they can feel it.
No, but he knows. He genuinely knows because Violet had to stop him, had to say, you'll be really embarrassed if...
Yeah, and the king Deverelly said, there's no magic here, how you did it.
Yeah. The king knows because Violet had to make a deal to stop him from telling everyone.
Yes. But the interesting part for me here is that it's clear now that those two are still in touch. They're still doing some business.
There's a negotiation going on.
Yes.
And there has been for some time, because it says his last offer. So he's obviously had some previous offers.
Yes. For me, what I'm thinking right now is before this happened, there was a dream, a nightmare with Berwyn. Berwyn was holding the Sword of Tyrrendor, and he was telling to Xaden, you had to give me what I want. Then we had this, a scene. After this, there will be another nightmare. And then Berwyn, he doesn't have the Sword of Tyrrendor in the hand anymore. He doesn't have any sword. And he says to Xaden, you lost what I wanted. And now you have to give me Violet, is what he trying to say. So I wonder if I maybe in this missive that we have here was maybe some hints, because the King of Deverelly, he wanted the Sword of Tyrrendor, but the only thing that he didn't want is the Holden given to him, because Holden wasn't the right person to give it that sword. Xaden is the right one to do that. So maybe he's asking for that sword. And there's a negotiation about it.
So does the sword then hold far more power? Is that what you're saying? That the Sword of Tyrrendor has to be willingly given by the rightful owner to a new owner. And then what comes with that?
That's the interesting
Like the
part.
rightful ownership of Tyrrendor.
We know that Tyrrendor is full of Telerion and this kind of gems that has a lot of magic as well. So I don't know if because you are the owner of the sword, and with that you are the owner of the land, you are the owner of the magic.
And that puts way more weight into the fact that there's one of the emerald stones is now on the ring that belongs to Violet.
Yes.
Because someone could take the sword but not have the magic because she's got part of it. It's not whole anymore. It's
not whole, yes.
So has he, by marrying her, giving her the ring, he's also made it impossible for anybody else to take Tyrrendor.
Yeah, so I think maybe here it's like Xaden is kind of like a playing chess, because the King of Deverelly wants that sword. Berwyn, he's seen that. That's what I think, that he wants the sword as well.
Could be other things, but yeah.
No, but the problem is that the sword is in his hand. That's the thing, in one dream. And then after this, it's not there. And then he said, you lost it. And he's not talking about Violet. Because after this, he said that you had to give me her, like Violet. So I'm thinking that maybe Xaden knows what's going on with this sword. And maybe he pulled the emerald to give it to Violet. So Violet is holding the last piece for this sword to work.
Yeah.
And it's going to give it to the King of Deverelly. It's not going to work anyway, even when Xaden is the right owner.
He's giving it... So you think he's giving it to the sword with the 3 emeralds to the Deverelly as part of this offer? Okay. 2 things. I really like it, and I definitely think there's something to do with that ring. Like the fact that I like the theory that more than the sword is exchanged when you exchange the sword.
Yeah.
The dream is immediately after this, though.
Yes.
And he won't have had time to send the sword back. This is the last offer. He won't have had time to send the sword back, or even agree a final offer or agree a negotiation in the time it takes for Berwyn to say you lost it. Because it was literally yesterday. Unless time passed, we don't know.
Doesn't mean the King of Deverelly have it in that moment. Can be just say them, put in a packet, in a parcel, send them for Dragon Mail. That's it. It's not in his possession anymore.
Offer. He wouldn't do that without. Surely you'd send somebody.
No, but this is not the first time that's happening. So this is like the second time. So maybe there's like just to close the deal.
Put it in the post and be like, all right, I'll wait for you to send. Surely he's got to wait for the money or whatever. Wait for what is.
We don't know what exactly is Xaden is trading here with the King of Deverelly for a favor or something in return of the sword. So he's sending the sword in a parcel. So it's gone. still maybe in Tyrrendor or halfway, but Berwyn is a dreamwalker, so he might know what's going on in Xaden's mind. He might see what he's done.
Doing it anyway.
And then he says,
I can see you're really, really convinced it's the sword. I like it, but I think there are another couple of options that we should definitely talk about.
Yes.
In the Second Croveland Uprising, we know that the Deverelly were the middle man, the intermediary, for want of a more gender-neutral word. The intermediary in the deal between Umbriel and Craveler for the dragon eggs. We also know that some dragon eggs go missing at the end of the book. I do suspect we know there's a big ruckus, and we know that it looks like Xaden's doing. We know that some of the Aarician Empyrean are dead. So there was obviously a big struggle to get these eggs out. However, they wanted 12 eggs. They only got 6. So that seems to suggest that there was a bit of negotiation going on. Was the King of Deverelly acting as the intermediary in this deal between, again, Umbriel? Possibly Xaden was realised they needed the Wrath of Dune and the whole of her army, and Deverelly is making the deal on behalf of Umbriel. It is a potential. It's not like we know that we've had confirmation from on the page that if you want to learn things about the future, you have to look into history, because history just repeats itself. And it seems to me that there's this big thing here that Deverelly could be the intermediary between the eggs and Umbriel. The other possibility I was thinking about Andana's egg. I wondered if Xaden and Brennan spending time in the dragon nursery with the eggs made him realise there was more to the dragon eggshells than they thought when Violet just gave the King of Deverelly the dragon egg, and that possibly he was trying to get it back. I don't think so, because the word offer is really deliberate here, and it does feel like Xaden has something the King of Deverelly wants, because otherwise it would have been, I don't know, his last asking price or his last negotiation or his last terms. I don't know. Maybe the word offer could work, but yeah, the other thing I thought of was Andana's eggshell. But yeah. I think it's either the sword or the egg deal. I'm leaning on the egg deal at the moment, and you're obviously leaning on the sword. So it'll be really interesting to see, because I think that's coming back, isn't it?
Yeah, so, at the end of this book, a lot of people were talking about this ring that she is wearing, and a lot of people saying, it's this last piece of Xaden's soul that's in that ring. I think that ring is important, but I don't think it's Xaden's soul.
I think it's with Tyrrendor, isn't it?
Yes, it's something that it has to be like she's wearing a piece or something more power.
Tyrrendor's soul.
Or Tyrrendor's magic, Tyrrendor's power. And it has to be with the sword, and it has to be with that emerald that she's wearing. So she is the key for that. And those missives that Brennan gives to Xaden, there's another one as well from Melgren. And he said that it's no point about going for the fight because he saw the Archon already, and the battle is lost.
Yeah, and Xaden's was a bit late for that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because I've already gone. But they later work out that it wasn't actually
late.
It came early, and it's supposed to preempt the next battle. But again, how did he see it?
Yes, because there's a lot of marked ones there, and his power doesn't work.
Bodhi, Garrick, Imogen, Xaden.
Every single one of them are in this battle.
Yeah, all of them.
So, yeah. How
Sloan.
he can see.
Yeah.
Or exactly which battle he's referring, because, or what he means that it will be lost. So it means that maybe Xaden turned into a van and Melgren is taken as a lost. Well,
yeah, but then even the giant mushroom cloud of shadow doom wipes out all the venom in the wyvern. It doesn't. Yeah. So while Xaden has essentially turned full Venom, he still did it for good reasons, didn't he? Because he didn't wipe out riders. He wiped out. Although obviously he possibly did kill some, or Sorrengail or somebody. Somebody killed the Imperial, like 2 or a couple. I don't know. Did it definitely say 2? I don't know.
I think like 3 elders.
Yeah, 3 elders.
Yes.
So it definitely says that the elders were killed, doesn't it? On the page.
By the display, it looks like it was Xaden. It's what they say. So it would be shadows or another cloud around.
Yeah, big mushroom cloud.
Yes, that's the thing that it just, I don't know what to think, because I used to think has to be Leothan, the one who took the 6 eggs, or has to be the people from Umbrel. Instead to get 12, they got just 1 of each, because they wanted 2 of each. That's why they want 12. But after that, riders, and it seems there was Ryerson, the one who was doing all of that.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so Xaden was the one who stole the eggs, or he was trying to prevent it, and he was late, and now everyone is blaming him about it. Something.
I was thinking about the 2 eggs thing. It's like Noah's Ark, where you need 2 of each. But you don't, do you? Because they don't always mate with their own kind. You've got Sorrengail and Tairn.
Yes.
Who were mated, but one's blue and one's black. So what dictates the colour of the dragon?
I think maybe it's like our dog. The mother was black, the father was brown. And then they have some puppies were completely black.
Yeah,
some
you're right.
Some were brown.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a mix.
No, I know it wouldn't be a mix. I just wondered if the dragon chose, or you know how the dragon chooses its tail, and the dragon apparently chooses when it hatches, like 650 years later.
Yeah.
I wondered, but you're right. Like a Labrador has like a mixed litter.
Yeah, I remember when we're talking about the feather tails and when they were golden. I think it was only the elder, the one that can tell which color will be the golden dragon, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, if they know the parents are green and they had a golden dragon, what can you expect it's gonna be? It's not gonna be. Well, I mean, it could be black, but then. If they're like two,
that's the thing.
Two green ones.
But it could be chosen. That's the thing. It could be like, maybe it's random. Maybe it's just like a gumball machine.
No, I was thinking more like if you had 2 green dragons, they have eggs, and then one of them is a black dragon, that would be looking bad for one of the adults. They'll like be cheating or something. But we don't know if they choose the colors. But for me, it's kind of like...
I think it's random. Like, no, it can't be, can it? Because 10 is like...
from the line or this, and all of them are black. So...
Yeah.
Has to be genetics.
Yeah.
It's not just like they tell it by
magic. I think it's more like the puppy situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
The other missive that he gets is from the High Priestess of the Temple of Doom, because obviously previously Xaden saved the lives of all of them with some of the columns were fallen. So he used the shadows and everyone was safe. So she is saying in this missive that thanks for everything that he has done for them, and she is there to give it any favor that he considered fit to save that dead. And here is when now we know that yes, this is the favor that he is pulling by the end of this book.
Yeah, like she said, it says Dune holds Violet and Rhee in her regard, and she owes Xaden a favor. So the fact that she says Dune holds you and Rhee in her regard, I think that's a good thing for Rhee. I think there's going to be something good happen off the back of that. I wonder if she holds Violet in any more of a high regard. I think she probably does, because you know how it was all unclear and her path was unclear. By saving the temple or coming to their help, she has effectively chosen Dune over Venom. And we know that the uncertainty was, will she be good or will she turn Venom? So Dune wouldn't accept her. feels like now Dune is starting to accept her. Wonder if any more of her hair is going to go
More silver.
I doubt it, because it says that the dedication wasn't completed. But yeah, I wonder also how she knows that Dune holds her in a regard. From the smoke and stuff that they do at the temple. Has Dune been like, yeah, she's good now, I like her.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing I took from this was the fact that Rhee was mentioned as well. Yeah. And I think there's going to be something good happen.
It will be a win leader after all.
Yeah. So they're having this bit of a bit of chat, and I've got to say, this one sent me off in an absolute spiral. So buckle up. And I know we've been talking for nearly an hour about this one, but the casual mention of the book, and you know what I'm like with book titles. Violet has been reading a book called The Emergence of Venin, and I was like, right, I'm going to go right back, and I'm going to go through all of the fables of the barons, epigraphs, and I'm going to work out how Venin emerged. And to tell you, I got confused, and then I got this crackpot theory as an understatement. Can I step through the fables of the Baron and see if we can work out how the Venin emerged?
Okay.
So, this is everything we know about the fables of the Baron. Some of the fables tell stories of the first riders who learned to bond with dragons and how those bonds could turn the rider if they tried to consume too much power. So the first way they could have emerged is that they were riders first and they channeled and they wanted to consume too much power. So we know that the first 6 were not the first to bond, but they were the first to survive. So there's lots of failed trials there. Yes. And is that because they tried to channel too much power and they all became Venin before that? Another talks about the dangers of wielding power from the ground instead of the skies, as one could easily start drawing magic from the earth and eventually be driven mad. And this again is another tick in the box that all these riders were turning Venin. And actually, this is where I'm coming to. I don't think there would be Venin if there were never riders. Others talk of a great evil that spread across the land as man became corrupted by dark magic, as Venin who created flocks of winged creatures called wyvern and scourged the land. Scourged the land. I don't know if that's right. Scourged the land of all magic in a thirst for more power. So it did feel like all the men were getting corrupted. Men, not just men, sorry, men and women were getting corrupted. And then, there's this confusion over the brothers, and it specifically says 3 brothers. One bonded a griffin, one bonded a dragon, then the third one got jealous of them and channeled from the ground. So I don't know why, but I was under this illusion, and I think perhaps most people are under the illusion that the dragon riders bonded to protect against the Venin, to defeat the Venin. But that didn't happen. The griffin and the dragon were bonded first, and then the third one got jealous of them, and then so it's the other way around. Is this new for you or not? Is it just new for me? Because I was thinking the whole time that they bonded to protect against the Venin.
About the story of the brothers is something really, I'm not sure if I say complex or is confusing, because yes, one of the scenes we say one bond to a dragon, one to the griffin, one turned into Venin. But then in the next bit, it says it was the third one, the one who surrounded all the power from the sky.
Yeah.
To eradicate all the other brothers. So we're talking then it was the Venin who eradicated the dragons and the griffins.
I think there's 3 things here. One, it could be a mistake. It's not a mistake. Rebecca Yarros does not make mistakes. We had this there's loads of people saying, oh, it's just a mistake. Everyone said that about Liam's ice wielding. Not us. We didn't say that. We said he had a second signet. But anyway, loads of people were saying, we got Violet's second signet horrendously wrong. So that there's that. But you you don't make mistakes with stuff like this. We know that Rebecca Yarros has like a spreadsheet of epigraphs, and it's like they're all really well planned out. This is not a mistake. The second thing it could be is that it doesn't really matter what order they're in. There's 3 brothers. It depends what you're talking about. So you could be going for a meal and you're like, one brother had chicken, one brother had the vegetarian option, and the third brother had pork. Mm-hmm. You know, like it doesn't matter. One's the oldest, one's the youngest. And then the next day you could be like, the first brother is married, the second brother is... It's just the order that you think of them in. Mm-hmm. It doesn't actually matter. They're different stories, so you got to remember they're different fables, but there's also the potential that the Venin brother actually defeated the other one, or one of the others, the rider. The thing that makes you come back to the fact that it was actually one of the dragon or the griffin rider that channeled from the sky is because it says vanquished his jealous sibling, and it links back to that Venin that is jealous. But I do have a feeling that the Venin isn't necessarily the bad one here. I mean, they look like the bad guys. They've got red veins coming out their eyes, which looks a little bit bad.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this a couple of times before, that maybe at the beginning there was kind of different type of Venin, so they were more like wizards. And then with the time, they start just to get corrupted, and then it comes to the way they look now.
So I think the opposite. I think that everyone had access to magic. Mm-hmm. The dragons, and this was sky magic. The dragons and the griffins then were decided that they needed to control it, because it's a great war between 3 brothers to control magic. That's another thing that's said in the fables. I think I've got the quote here. A great war among 3 brothers who fought to control the magic. So you've had access to magic your whole life, and all of a sudden it's taken away, and there's an Empyrean controlling it, or there's griffins controlling it. That could be like a rebellion against the establishment. It could be the Venin saying, hang on, you're not in control. We'll just take it anyway, and we will rise up, and we will take control again. Mm-hmm. And I think the great and terrible price was that nobody had access to magic. But then the dragons and the riders, the first 6, came back again, or like there's a resurgence of it. I think this is like a cyclical thing, where there was no magic and now there is, and there's no magic and now there is, and that we'll end the series with no magic. And we talked about that for loads of times, but I think she'll leave it as a like, this is the warning, like harness the magic, don't lose control, there's still magic there. And then you could end up in this cycle and cycle and cycle the whole time. But yeah, I just don't necessarily think that the Venin emerged out of evil, or even possibly jealousy, possibly like they see themselves as stealing it back because the dragons and the griffins were the ones that ruled. I still think there's the Great War, the Unification War. So I don't know if they're the same war, the Great War between these 3 brothers. I feel like that was earlier than the first 6 war. It's 2 different things.
We're talking about maybe at the beginning of everything.
Well, it could be this ancient king. Oh, it could be. Was it Reginald? Wasn't there a King Reginald?
I think Reginald was...
Poor Emil.
Yeah, from...
The one who got killed with the Dark Wielder.
Yes.
So that could have been him. Plus, that could have been... And then the ancient king, 1,000 years before Navarre, the Deverelly guy. Anyway, there's loads of quotes from the Fables of the Barons. We should do a bonus episode on it. Although we're running out of time for bonus episodes. We've only got 2 left before we finish the Imperium. I think we're going to have to carry on doing some ad hoc bonus episodes of Empyrean, because we've still got loads to say. I think we've got 3 weeks left.
I'm pretty sure eventually we'll find out more information from Rebecca Yarros, maybe some sneak peeks, and then
when she starts writing it, she's got another book to write before this one. That is why we're not going to continue. We'll bring bits of the Imperium back, I guess.
Yes.
It's going to be really hard to talk about a new book without linking things back to the Imperium. So maybe we need a spoiler warning for the Quicksilver episodes that we might just stray into Imperium stuff.
Plus Harry Potter.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on. That's just that tiny little mention of her reading a book on the emergence of venom. But I also, like the Fables, just want to say one more thing. I said we could move on, but we can't. The Fables obviously don't go into what that great and terrible price was and what the end was, or what the big weapon was, or because Violet doesn't know. She's read that book over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So there isn't actually anything that useful about how to end it all in that book. Otherwise she'd have known it by now. And also the emergence of venom, we didn't get any snippets from that. Violet knows so much more than we do because we just don't get all these, but they're reading the great like equalizer as knowledge, and she has all this knowledge that we're not getting from the pages.
I think there's so much information going on in the Fables of the Barons. That's something that she needs to reread, because I'm sure that book was written by Asher Sorrengails. So after all of this, Brennan leaves, and he leaves Xaden and Violet alone in the assembly. So Violet is going to say that maybe he wants to just go to the roof and just like chill.
Eat chocolate cake.
Yes. But he has a better idea, looking to the throne, and she is like, hell yes.
And then they close the door, and we don't get to see it. No. We never did find out what happened on that throne when she read his mind.
Yeah, that's still a mystery, and I'm still thinking there's a run in that throne.
I do.
Because it was when she touched the part that was burned in the throne that she started having these thoughts from Xaden.
Yeah, so doesn't her back hit the throne, and your theory is that there's a rune in the throne that the person that's sitting on the throne can read the mind of the person knelt before them, just to get their true loyalty. Because if someone's kneeling before you, you need to know that you can trust them. I absolutely love this theory. I think it's it's got to be a rune, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Fen Ryerson's throne, and there's a guy that has a lot of things going on. He need to know, who need to trust. And at that time, he has Colonel Mary, that she was an expert in runes. So, and
it's only half the throne is burned as well, suggesting that there's something in that bit that's stopping it from being burnt. Yeah. So, like, protection of the person sitting in it, maybe the rune itself is protecting itself, and
maybe it was burned just like on the surface, but inside still holding magic.
Yeah,
and you can't burn that.
And there was loads of questions, loads of focus on the scene when people were trying to work out Violet's second signet, but we never did get a resolution for it. So there's still the hope that there's a rune there, yes. And the person on the throne can read my... But you'd have thought Xaden sat in it quite a lot of times.
Yeah, that's why he said, I shouldn't do that. Like, put you against that, because...
He knows I shouldn't have knelt before you, because he was.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I just want to know more.
Yeah.
Anyway, door closed. I didn't get a private a private throne show this time.
No.
Right.
No more my house, my chair, my woman moment.
No, but there was another one, wasn't there? There was an equivalent. And I was like, this is the equivalent. This is the Onyx Storm version of...
like my body, my soul, and my something
else. It's not as memorable.
My power, my body, my soul. It's all yours.
It wasn't as memorable as my house, my chair, my woman. But anyway.
They were not naked, so that's why.
Probably.
Memoirs of Luz Bell. She loved him. She lost him. And he came back. but wasn't completely him. She feared him. She fought him. But she fell for him. Memoirs of Luzbel. Now available on Amazon.
Chapter 56?
Epigraph.
I'm going to read that in King Tauri's voice. Start again. If Tyrrendor just... Is that
That's
no
King
good?
Tauri's voice. Okay.
Yeah, no, King Tauri the Wise.
A little bit drunk. If Tyrrendor was immediately restore the flow of fertility.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay.
If Tyrrendor does not immediately restore... You were laughing at me. I could see you in the corner of my eye laughing at me. If Tyrrendor does not immediately restore the flow of Teladium, the consequences will be dire, not only for the province, but the continent. This is not a request. It is an order from your king. Official correspondence of His Majesty King Tauri the Wise to His Grace Lieutenant Xaden Ryerson, 16th Duke of Tyrrendor.
She's getting serious.
Yeah, it will not just be bad for Navarre, it will be bad for the entire continent. And that is because they have no way of fighting venom. We find out that the flow of Teladium has stopped, and that means that Basgayath's forge has essentially just gone out of business.
Mm-hmm.
They've locked the door. They're not making daggers. The only place, then, that is making daggers is Aracia.
Yes.
Which, I don't know, but I would say that's pretty bad for everyone because they're only making half the output. Unless they've managed to increase the output from Aracia to double. But then you'd think if they could, why weren't they? Possibly because they were given half the Teladium to Navarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they are making the same amount, but they're keeping a lot of it.
I would think that maybe they're just doing some stuff just to kill their appearance that everything is going good. But they still just completely invest in their own world.
But what about the fact that Xaden will not restore the flow of Teladium until he gets assurance from King Tauri that the Aracian riders at Basgayath are safe? Because Xaden is totally in control of this situation, right? Mm-hmm. He's got the Teladium. He's got the highest number of conscripts in the Navarrian army. That the scales are well and truly tipped in Tyrrendor's favour.
Mm-hmm.
The half, I'm going to say half, I don't know, a lot of the Navarrian side that isn't the Tyrish side are stationed at the border, at the bottom of the cliffs, which is like not an ideal. Mm-hmm. From a strategy standpoint, you don't want to be the side, that's at the bottom of the cliffs. It's a waste. So it feels like King Tauri has absolutely nothing. He's just trying. It's your king speaking.
It's not that wise in the end, isn't it?
No, but we've said this before. I suspect he gave himself that title.
Yes, and obviously we're not counting that he's a bloody shadow wielder, and his partner is a lightning wielder, and the two dragons by themselves are the most dangerous and biggest of the continent as well.
Yeah. If you were a king, what name would you give yourself? I would be like Queen Shan the Anxious. Queen Shan the Chaotic.
I'll be just Juan King the Chill.
The Chill.
Chill, yeah.
The Patient. I think you'd be
the patient one.
Juan Carlos the Patient. Yeah, you are quite patient. And I would be Queen Shan the Impatient.
So we start this chapter with the Nightmare, and in this occasion, Violet, she realized that she is in Satan's Nightmare again, and then she managed to just go apart. So now she is Violet in size, Xaden's dream. So she can see Xaden and she can interact with Xaden. Xaden sees her like, you shouldn't be here. She is always like, wonder why you're here, why you doing this, why keep you here, what's holding you here. And then the sage appears, it's me. And they start having this conversation. And as we mentioned before, here is when Berwyn says to Xaden, you lost what I wanted.
Yeah.
Now you had to bring her. And that was pointing out Violet. So he lost what Berwyn want. And now it's like the second prize is Violet, is how he feels. And then saying that if he doesn't do that, they had the advantage and they will kill her.
I've got loads to say about this dream, so I'm not ready to
move on.
I'm not ready to wake her up yet. So Violet tries to wake Xaden up in the dream, and Berwyn says he can't wake up. And here's me thinking you were going to be a quick learner. How disappointing. So I think this is proof that he's a dream walker. Also interesting that anything that Berwyn can do, we can assume that Violet is going to be able to do at some point.
Yes.
Berwyn seems to be trapping Xaden in a dream, in a nightmare. He can't wake up. He's literally telling Violet he can't wake up. Violet is going to be able to do the same thing. She's going to be able to trap people in their dreams. Also, terrifying. She's like, it's not real. It can't be hurting him. Then she wakes up, and I'm going to come back into the dream in a minute. But she wakes up, and Xaden is on the bed, back arched, can't breathe. He is physically hurting him.
Yes, because if the mind believes that's happening, then it happens physically.
Yeah. So Violet is going to be able to do that as well. Also terrifying. So, you know, I was like, oh, I think she's going to be a mind walker, not just a dream walker, because dream walking isn't that terrifying. Now I'm starting to realize it probably is terrifying on its own. She might not need to do that, but she can also effectively manipulate the outcome. The bit that is really, really interesting is the fact that she realizes she needs to feel pain to wake up. She doesn't have a dagger with her. She says, if this was my dream or if this was real, I'd have my daggers. That's her lucid dreaming. So she's realizing it's a dream. She's also getting what she needs. Berwyn's eyes widen with shock when he sees the dagger. That suggests to me that might be something that Berwyn cannot do. Why would he be shocked when he sees the dagger if he hadn't predicted that was happening? It's like this is the first time she's realised that she's in a dream. She's realised it's Xaden's dream. She's stepped apart from him. She didn't have her daggers with her. Xaden reaches for his sword and it vanishes. And that's like a typical dream thing, isn't it? You're like, you reach for something and you can't quite get it, or it disappears, or you're doing a speech and you've got no clothes on. You know, they're like typical things. Well, the fact that he is shocked to see this dagger has appeared, that feels weird. She then stabs herself in the leg and wakes herself up. What I would like to know is, why did she not throw the dagger at Xaden to wake him up first? Because she couldn't wake him up. What would have happened if she had? Because if Berwyn had, sorry, this is getting complicated, but if Berwyn was suffocating Xaden and in the bed he was actually suffocating, had Violet thrown the dagger at Xaden to wake him up, would he have just woken up, or would he have had a physical kind of response to it, like pain? First question. Second question, what would have happened if she'd thrown the dagger at Berwyn? And would that have been a way to get Berwyn out of his head? Because what we don't know is we don't know what happens when two dreamwalkers get together. But what we do know is Berwyn's eyes widened with like, so he either realised he was losing control, or she'd done something that he couldn't do, which would be amazing if he's been doing it for ages. The only other thing I wanted to mention in the dream was that she mentions a freakishly young face again, which makes me think it is either Xaden's granddad, which if we're going down this Sword of Tyrrendor route, then possibly is, isn't it? Or Naelin, who also would have a freakishly young face.
I mean, if it's Naelin, he will be around, well, in the 20s, definitely.
Well, we don't know. No, we don't actually know.
He was 3
that.
years older than Brennan or something like this. I think we found out in Onyx Storm.
Yeah, you're right.
And Brennan is like 30th or 29 by this point.
Yeah, it could have been anyone, a relationship with anyone, but it doesn't say that Naelin was, but it's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just, again, when we start to talking about Mira with Drake, there's just like some trace. They're living there.
But then the question is, why didn't Tairn bond before that? Because he is 100.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think maybe he was just doing dragon business until he found out that he needs a signet. Only with his power can fight or
because he would be, wouldn't he? He'd be like, I can do this on my own. I don't need a puny rider. I'm not gonna. He would. Yeah. That would totally be done.
But going back to your questions, I think maybe, I mean, the very first time when I read it, Berwyn was shocked about what Violet was doing. For me, it was more like she was learning how to do the stuff in the dreams. So that, because he said further, he thought that she would learn quick. And then it's like, yes, she's learning really quick. That's one thing. But yeah, that maybe the fact that she's materializing something in the dream, maybe it's something that maybe he can't do. But I mean, we've seen that he grabs Xaden, he put it in the air, and that he can control perfectly Xaden. So it will be weird if he can't just, I don't know, manifest a dagger or something.
Yeah. But it's like she's lucid dreaming, isn't she? Yeah.
Definitely. She knows that it's not real and she is doing something. And I think the reason that why she is not doing that for Xaden is because she doesn't want to hurt him even in dreams. So she knows the best thing is she would call because they're shocked.
And then she thought she could wake him up.
Waking up. Yeah.
Yeah. But the best thing to do, if it wasn't actually going to hurt him in real life, but that's why I wonder if it is, and Rebecca Yarros deliberately had her not do that, because later she will figure out that if she hurts someone in a dream, they actually do get hurt.
Yeah.
Which is really terrifying.
It's
and if
like
you think
pure Freddy Krueger vibes.
Yeah. And if you go back to the Dragon Riders Codex that says you must not attack another cadet in their sleep or another rider in their sleep, and that's exactly what she'll be able to do.
Yeah.
And what if one of the reasons why she needed to manifest that was because of the fact that she was attacked in her sleep by Amber Mavis? Because it's all about, it says it's because she wanted to know what Andana was dreaming, but that does feel a bit weak for me.
That was like a core desire. That was more like curiosity. Both of them are awake. And they only start to talk about it a little bit. And as when Violet said, it's the first time when she actually can be in her dream because she realized it was Xaden's dream and all that is happening. Aaric arrives. He's knocking the door and even Xaden said, somebody knocking the door at this time never could be something good. And he is absolutely right. When he opens the door, the first thing he said, like, Aaric, you look like shit. And yeah, he's being beat up big time, and he's wearing like a shield, like a massive shield in the back.
Yeah.
And Gary said that they're being attacked, and then he said, I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't quicker enough.
I know. This is at the start of the episode. This is one of those things, one of the ticks in the Aaric box.
Yes. So I don't know if it's just obviously Rebecca Yarros giving the same treatment to Buddy and Gary, so you don't know which one's gonna be at the end. But for the people that say no, it's Gary, the one that is the venom at the end of this book. This is one of those reasons as well.
Yeah, I think this is another tick in his box. The other tick for me is that it's the person he least expects. We've suspected Brennan. We've suspected Brennan. We've suspected Bodhi from Fourth Wing. Like, there's been something off about Bodhi. So if Xaden doesn't expect something of Bodhi, That's weird because it's obvious to us and we don't live with him. So the other thing that is the Garrick one is that it's the person we least expect. But anyway, yeah, he's not strong enough. He's not fast enough. Yeah, that's exactly the type of thing that makes someone want to channel more power, isn't it?
Yes.
But if the one saving grace, I do still think it's Bodhi. But if it is Garrick, then he's doing it to save the people that he loves again. I have full trust that if it's Garrick, it's not a bad thing. Just like Xaden. I am red flagging bad here, though, because this is me being like, Xaden's still there because it's fine. I appreciate this is a bit of a red flag. I'm being Violet. And if it's Bodhi, it's bad. That's how I'm feeling right now. If it's Garrick, it's good. If it's Bodhi, it's bad.
Yes.
Bodhi's doing it to be more powerful because he
feels just knowing
sick of being perpetually one step behind Xaden. He didn't get the girl. He didn't like all of this stuff. And that for me feels like Bodhi behavior. Because
the clues that we have is obviously somebody that's really close to Xaden, somebody they think that it's just never enough, all the effort that he's doing. And Xaden said that I can't believe that he does this after he saw me struggling. And when we found out the very first time that Gary was a distance wielder, he was talking to Violet that he's there is because he saw Xaden struggling and he has never seen him struggling that way. That he was like about to take all the rocks from the Basgaia with the shadows because he was losing control, absolutely. So that is another
one. Yeah, I know.
But anyway.
I just think that, like, I've said this before. We said it last week, that if it was Garrick, like, there's already loads of distance wielders and air wielders over there. I don't need another one.
Yeah. For me, that's a really good argument. That we know for sure the Vanning had already a distance wielder.
At least one.
Yes. So why Gary will go there as a distance wielder as well? But then when he was talking about everything that happened, he said it was Theophanie, the one who did this. And then when Violet take a better look to that massive shield that he's carrying, then she realized that it's a dragon scale. And it's exactly the same green shade that she has in her armor. So she realized that's a scale from Tiny. And then when it comes, Theophanie has Mira. That's the end of the chapter.
Yeah. Chapter 57.
Epigraph.
But even harder than taking a life is doing nothing while one is extinguished beside you. Keep your eyes forward, Mira. Page 71, the Book of Brennan. I was sure Mira was dead at this point. There were tears. There were real, loud, ugly sobs. You can insert a clip of the part where I read the video of where when I read this bit. I would have been like... I genuinely did not think Mira was making it out of this chapter.
Yeah.
You know how I went down a Fables of the Barons rabbit hole? I went down a Book of Brennan rabbit hole. Did you know that we had a quote from the page, just one page before this one, in Iron Flame? This is the only new extract of the Book of Brennan that we get in Onyx Storm, this one. And this is page 70. Sorry, this is page 71. And page 70 said, I know you don't want to hear this, but sometimes you have to know when to take the death blow, Mira. It's why you have to be sure that Violet enters the scribe quadrant. She'll never be able to take a life. And then page 71 says, but even harder than taking a life is doing nothing while one is extinguished behind you. Beside you. Keep your eyes forward, Mira. So that is like the full paragraph there. It's like a...
Yes.
I just thought it was interesting.
I can definitely say that Rebecca Yarros had the Book of Brennan and she wrote the whole thing already and then she just picked it up from where to put.
I'd love to read that. Yeah. Really cool. At first I was like, this could be Naylan, Brennan. It's really hard not to do something when a life is extinguished beside you and you get the same vibes. Brennan was dying, if not dead. Mira should have been dead then, shouldn't she? Like, how she still had any life in her that he could, like, bring... It felt like there was parallels between the situation with Nilin and the situation that we're about to get in chapter 58 with Brennan.
Yeah.
Both were successful, but Brennan managed to do it without channeling from the earth. He channeled more power from Dain.
Well, he didn't channel. He just was receiving the power from Sloane.
Yeah, it was still channeled through her.
So we start this episode straight away in the assembly chamber, and everyone is having a really heated discussion here because obviously there's too much thing going on at the same time, and there's not enough manpower to do all of this. So Brennan is just trying to come with a plan because everyone is waiting for him to do. He's the tactician. And for him, it's really obvious that Theophanie knows a lot about them. So obviously, the mirror was Violet's sister, and the Violet will do anything for her. So even he said that something is clear that this woman knows more about us than what we do about her. And I think it's because Theophanie has been around for longer time. And now that I'm doing my reread and the other podcasts, there's Fantasía Fiel. There's something that we start doing now for the Spanish people. I started reading Fourth Wind in Spanish.
Alas de Sangre.
Alas de Sangre, yes. And I noticed that there's a part in the first chapters when this storm coming to Violet, when she's about to cross the parapet.
Yeah.
I used to think that maybe it was Lilith doing this, but I didn't know why. I was like, it doesn't make sense that she's pushing her daughter and they send a cloud for this. And then I realized it was Theophanie.
Yeah, it's definitely Theophanie.
It was trying to kill Violet because I'm sure Theophanie made Lilith channel from the beginning. I think since Lilith, she developed the signet that she was a storm wielder, it was the counterpart from Theophanie.
Yeah.
And Theophanie was like always challenging the one who was like her balance. Lilith didn't have that power. So I think there was always like a fight in the background. And I think Lilith, she was having a fight when she was pregnant of Violet. And when she was pregnant, I think Theophanie was trying to treat the baby, like draining the baby. And that's why Violet has this condition that her bones and joints are fragile. And even in the reread on these chapters, they are mentioned about Violet that she is pale. There's like that fever, the little said, had drained their colors. And that's exactly what Venom does. They drain the colors.
Yeah. But then we know that the hair isn't anything to do with that.
No. The reference is about the skin.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you that it's Theophany. The one thing I still don't understand is how the fucking words work. Like, how do they work? How can she How can she use her storm protection or her storm power within the wards? How can Theophany do that? Because they say that they could do lesser magic, but they can't do major magic. I agree. I think it was Theophany, but I just want to know how these wards work.
I think there's something dodgy with the wards on Navarre.
Yeah.
And Vanning, the Maven Sage level, they can still wield them inside these wards. They can't do the same one in Aracia because that are different. Those diamond patterns that are in the Warstone and Navarre, I think they're the one they guarantee for the Vanning to keep channeling from the ground. Because Jack says...
It's just the wyvern. It's just the wyvern.
Yes,
but
just
then
the wyvern.
The ground doesn't get drained. You know, like how outside the wards, the ground has no colour. It's like loses its pigment.
But I think it's just when they need to grab the power. But once their body has the power, they don't need to channel because they're constantly... Theophany in this part, she is doing the stones and the stuff. the floor is not draining.
It's when she chooses.
It's just when
to
she
drain.
wants to do it deliberately.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you're channeling from the ground. But then they've got to feed. I don't know. There's so many weird
Jack
things.
says there's a lot of things about the words the dragons are not saying.
Yeah, he does.
And I think this is one of those.
It has to be, because there's definitely wielding going on.
Yes, and we saw at the beginning, Theophanie was trying to rescue Jack, and then she disappears.
She distance wields, doesn't she?
Distance wield, or moving too fast for Violet to find out, or something was going on there, but it was magic.
Yeah.
And I think in the parapet, she was threatening Violet lives again. So Lily has to channel, because I think she did once, and she was threatening Violet's life again for Lily to push in.
I don't think Lilith storm. Did, because she didn't protect her.
We don't know how strong was she's supposed to be in
Yeah, but
10.
there's no evidence that she channeled at that point, is there?
I think she did from before, and I don't think maybe she did this time.
Yeah, I don't
but
think
she was
again.
fighting against Theophanie, Storm against Storm, so like pushing the Storm away. Because once Violet crossed the parapet, the Storm disappeared.
Yeah.
Or it's just like a breeze.
Yeah, I definitely think it was Theophanie that did that. I just want to know how. My favourite part of this whole argument is the subtle mention of the Nightwing Drift.
Mm-hmm.
They said there's also the Nightwing Drift. This is Drake Cordella's drift.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what he would have done, because we're all rooting for Drake and Mira.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what he would have done if he'd found out that they had Mira. I like to think that this is that in book 4 there's going to be because she's still recovering.
Yes.
There's going to be a moment, the "who did this to you" moment, where Drake is going to be our they're the real enemies to lovers story, because they were literally enemies. Xaden and Violet have not been enemies, really, have they? It's a forced proximity, so they're forced to be together, and they're supposed to hate each other because of family links. But Drake and Mira are the real enemies to lovers, and I think Drake's going to go mad when he finds out what happened to Mira.
The thing.
I think this is going to be when when they realize how they feel about each other. Yeah, I'm really holding out for a "who did this to you" moment from Drake. It's going to be too late, because Theophanie's already dead. If we believe that, she's dead, isn't she?
Yeah, I think
she got stabbed with the
and
doom.
she started to disintegrate or something. So
yeah,
she dies on the page.
Died.
Yeah.
Okay. On today's episode of What the Fuck is Kaori Doing?
Mm-hmm.
The question I want to know is, what the fuck was Kaori doing in Drathus? So, Brennan needed Kaori.
Mm-hmm.
He was forced by Xaden to think of a better plan. He couldn't give him more than one option. Xaden says, try harder. And he's like, right, I need Garrick and Kaori. Kaori comes forward. He's like, have you ever been to Drathus? And Kaori's like, once. I've been to Drathus once. My question is, why on earth these guys, Poromil and Navarre, have been at war for 600 years?
Mm-hmm.
Why on earth is a professor of dragonkind going to a major city in enemy territory? This is like a Ukrainian drone pilot instructor taking a trip to Moscow.
Yeah.
What on earth is happening here? Why would Kaori be in Drathus?
That's not really a good question, because when you put it in that way, it just doesn't make sense. Because normally all the people from Navarre, they are always behind the walls. They don't want any business outside the walls.
Riders are not accepted in Poromil.
No.
Why? And if anyone was going, maybe you'd have messengers. Maybe you'd have people that were like, there's open trade routes once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a professor of dragonkind be going to Poromil? Has he always been a traitor? Has he been a traitor to Navarre via Poromil?
Mm-hmm.
Or has he, what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, the only way in somehow is if maybe on those years when he has to service as a rider, because I think you have to serve 3 years as a rider before.
But they never attacked. They were being attacked.
Yes, so that's I'm not sure if they have like a secret mission or stuff, but so far it seems that it's just Navarre. They made the words, they're saying there, and every time that somebody comes against the wall,
Dragons are
they push it.
massive. They can't do secret missions to Drathus. They will be spotted.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense to me why it would be there. At worst, it's just a plot device because she needed him to have a 3D map.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this is significant again. This is another
hint that we're getting here.
Something. And they mention Panchek in the same sentence. It says, so we know, oh no, I don't think it is. I think it might be later, but we know Panchek has gone to try and get more backup troops.
Oh, we know already what is Melgren position about this battle.
Yeah, but we know that Panchek's actually in Drathus, so he's gone to Drathus instead. And just the mention of Panchek and Kaori again in the same thing, we can't trust Kaori.
I know. It's just, once you open Pandora box, it's just non-stop.
Yeah, there's every single time Kaori is on the page, there's something suspicious going on. I can't get over it now. I just don't know how we missed it.
I know.
I have been to New York one time as well, right? I could not reproduce a 3D rendered map of New York. And I was sightseeing. So I was there literally to like go around all the map. I could draw Central Park and I could tell you roughly where like Ellis Island is. I could tell you roughly, but I couldn't reproduce this 3D
perfect
image.
Yeah.
He's been there more than once if he can do that. And to sightsee, because you only look at the map and if you're specifically planning a holiday where you're like doing sightseeing.
Yeah. For me, it's exactly the same. If I was Brennan, the one telling me, like, have you been to this place at least once? Yes. Can you reproduce it? It will be like a child's drawing. It will be like so disappointing.
There'll be like really fuzzy gaps, totally flat bits. And you're like, isn't there anything there? Is that a flat? Can we land there? And you're like, maybe. I don't know. And then there's actually the Empire State Builder with a massive spike on. You couldn't land on it.
Yeah.
Something going on with Kaori.
Yes.
Sloane is like throwing punches as well. She's getting, I think somebody said cat. We assume it's cat.
Katrina.
Yeah, we assume it's one of them because she's saying, have you gone full on Navarre now? Because now you're behind the wards. Are you just like protecting your own? And then Sloane gets pissed off. I think probably because she's heard about how Liam died and this thing about like choosing to fight and going to beyond the wards and everything is exactly what Liam did. So it's probably like stirred up some of that. And she like runs forward and tries to punch someone. And then Dain grabs her by the waist and she starts punching Dain instead.
Well, it's because the page said the Captain smart ass says a comment against what Katrina just said. And then Sloane take it really bad. And so it's like she's going to hit this captain.
Defend Cat. Oh yeah, I read that wrong then. I read that a different way.
Yes, but yeah, then we start to see that he's like over Sloane, protecting her. Yeah. Maybe because he feels guilty about Liam.
No.
Because
so
there's something
naive.
going on.
There's definitely something going on between Dain and Sloane.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously he likes blonde girls. Yeah. Violet wasn't the type. Okay, so there's an interesting part here. You know, that I like to think always like double sense and everything when I'm reading this. So when they're planning here, what they're going to do, because they had to defend the pass, they had to make sure that Drathus doesn't fall, and they had to rescue Mira. So they're planning, okay, Violet has to go maybe rescue Mira, then Xaden will follow as well. And then somebody asks, what happens if Sorrengails falls as well? And then Xaden said, well, in that case, Body will be like a really good succession for Tyrrendor. Mm-hmm. And Brennan, what it says, well, at least one of you two will be like a good learner or will be good to tough. And then he's rubbing the scar on his hand. Obviously, is written in the way that, okay, if a Xaden dies or it's not there anymore, then Body will be the next Duke and Tyrrendor, and Body, it will be more maybe open mind, or he will listen all the stuff they had to say, and then he will actually act, and it will be like Xaden. He just what Xaden wants when he wanted, and that's it. So he will be the one who's be a good learner.
No.
That's what Brennan says.
No, it's not. He tries to get Violet to pick a mission because she can only do one and she can't save everyone. And then she's like, kill Theophany. And he says, I'm impressed because that wasn't one of my options. But okay, you've picked one. And then he says, and Xaden, what if Sorrengail fails? And he says, well, then Bodhi will be a good duke. And he's talking about Violet. He's like, at least one of you can learn. He's talking about Violet because Violet's picked one mission, and that was kill Theophany.
No, I think it's pretty much if Violet falls, Xaden says, then Body will be a good duke. And then Brennan said, well, at least one of you is going to be a good learner.
Yeah, but it's because Violet has learned to pick one mission. Definitely.
No, we had completely different points of view on this one. Then.
Read it again. You might realize.
Yeah, because definitely says, what if a Cadet Sorrengail is a doctor while securing her objective?
Yeah, but that's because you're only reading that part of the paragraph. You didn't read the bit before altogether.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing to be read together. Let's not have a big fight about it.
No, for me it was because I was thinking that, he was talking about at least Body will learn how to be like a good duke, and he's listening, that kind of stuff. But in the moment where he's like rubbing the palm on the hand, that's when he had this scar, when he had this rune. So I was like, okay, is he talking about Body or maybe about Xaden? Because if they lose Xaden, it's because Xaden, it will go full venom. And then he has a venom, he will learn. And it's just me like thinking again that maybe Brennan has something with a link with the venom side.
Yeah, I don't think we read it totally differently. So, and I read it the right way. So, what was I going to say? I was going to talk about the rune on his hand. So we've had rune class in this episode as well, and I went back through I did more prep than usual for this episode because I was desperate to find more clues about runes or like how it was made. In Iron Flame, Trissa is doing the first demonstration. And she makes a rune in midair. I'm acting this out for those that are just listening. She makes a rune in midair. And then she pushes her palm into the wooden disc. And then she lifts her palm away and the rune is etched there. What if, instead of... Because all this time we've been thinking about the rune being placed on his hand. But what if he tried to put a rune on something else, and it like a dangerous rune maybe, and it scarred his hand, like while he was trying to get the magic, and it was him that did it.
Actually, in the way that I was picturing like the full resurrection, I was thinking that he was on the floor, and then Nowly, he made a rune and a stone, and then he planted the stone and the palm on the hand, and then through that rune is when he started to put the power back in.
Yeah, but he didn't need to put it on a stone first. Nailing could have just like made the rune in the air and pushed the rune into his hand. There didn't need to be a stone at all.
Yeah, well, for me, because at the beginning it was kind of like always putting in something solid, so that's why I thought it would be like a stone, like what they do with the wyverns. They make it like a stone, and from that somehow they had a massive dragon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be as well that maybe it's directly on the palm.
Yeah, it could be that Nayland put it on his palm, but it could also, this is what made me think, like all this time we've been thinking that somebody put it on his palm. What if Brennan was trying to make a different rune, and when he pushed it onto it like burnt into his hand or something? instead.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, like, we're going to obsess over this rune forever. I wonder if we'll ever find out what this rune is.
We don't even know if it's since he died, because the only thing we know for sure, Violet didn't see that before. So it's something that it happened in that gap when he died. But we don't know if it's exactly because of that when he supposedly died. Or
I think we'll
after.
get more into this next week when there's another mention of the rune after, or lack of a rune, after Sloane has siphoned Dain's power into Brennan. She was touching his neck. So we'll get more into this next week, and we can bring more theories, I guess, back on the rune. Let's try and find some like crackpot ones.
Yeah.
Talking about runes and Trissa. What is up with Trissa in these chapters? Trissa has a bit of another bender here, doesn't she? She doesn't think the cadets do not belong on the front line, or whatever she says. And then Xaden like shuts her up. And Felix. Because Felix is also saying, we're still mending the walls since the last time these two went rogue. They're really getting stressed, and we talked about this before, but Xaden says, the assembly wanted me in that chair. You'll deal with my decisions while I'm on it.
Yes. I mean, I think you can see the point of view of both of them. So really for Trissa and Felix, they need to make sure that everyone is prepared, and send them like young riders to die because they're not fully prepared, just because they have like a lot of motivation. But motivation doesn't always compense the lack of skills.
Sometimes it does.
I mean, reality, it's always, you need to, for this kind of situation, you need to have preparation at least. But Xaden, he's been in a situation as a wing leader when he's not supposed to be in a real war, but he has to fight. And then he lost people because he took a decision about it, and they were cadets. For him, he understands as well from the point of view as a cadet that you prefer maybe die trying to do the change. They're just hiding, doing nothing. So he's just had maybe the two point of views, because he's the Duke, he understands that, but he understands the people, they want to fight, and he just, okay, we want volunteers, he wants to do it.
Worked in Resson.
Yeah.
Well.
Kind of.
Somebody died, and somebody's going to die in this one.
Yes.
One thing we haven't talked about is that the message that Garrick actually delivers is bring Bodhi and Violet. Xaden, Bodhi, Violet. Yeah. He says Theophanie wants Bodhi. Xaden thinks, and Violet, they think, well, that's weird. He said brother. This again, another confirmation that Bodhi and Xaden probably are brothers. But anyway, Xaden and Violet are having a in-mind conversation, and Sorrengails chimes in. Is this the first time we've heard Sorrengails in this book? Maybe not.
I'm not sure. But
I can't remember, but she's still obviously quite pissed with Xaden. She says, there is another that refers to you as brother. And they realise that they're talking about Jack. We don't get that on the page. We only get that later. And Xaden glances at Kaori. Another weird thing. There's two weird mentions of Kaori here. Xaden glances at Kaori, then turns to Garrick and says, fancy a trip or fancy a little walk. Yeah, up for a little walk. And then Garrick looks at Kaori and then nods. They're obviously going to go to Paskayeth to get Jack out. Why all these glances at Kaori? Why do they glance at Kaori, both of them? They're like, are they just like looking to check he's not listening? He is 100% listening, I can tell you that.
Yeah, but in the page, the Kaori like really focus on his projection, and then they just like trying maybe, like having this plan without Kaori found out.
So we know Panchek's already gone to Drathus. do we have any hints in the rest of the book that the Venin knew anything that was decided in that room when Panchak wasn't there and Kaori was there? That's what I'm going to be on the lookout for the rest of the book. Is that because Kaori was in the strategy chamber, in the assembly chamber at that point, hearing all of these plans? Is there any hint from now on in the rest of the book that the Venin had intel from inside that room? Because if they did, it's 100% Kaori. He was not focused on his projection. He was also listening.
I'm not sure how it works, the communication in this world, because sometimes it seems they're like really coordinated from really long distance.
Runes.
So dragons,
like
runes.
Telephone.
Yeah.
Telephone rune. Yeah, there are some dragons that can communicate over greater different distances. The bond, when mated dragons are bonded for like longer than 10 and Sorrengails, they can communicate for longer distances. And then you've got sound seekers who are good at communicating over long distances. And then you've got scribes running around.
Yeah.
Well, horses. I presume they ride horses.
Yeah, me too. So in the end, they have a plan. Brennan comes with a plan. And then he said, Violet, she need to understand that she can't rescue everyone. Xaden need to understand that Violet, it won't die. She need to trust. If everyone does their perfect job, then everything will be fine. And then Violet said that, yeah, she will do anything to rescue Mira. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah. So that's the end of the history lesson. So let's move on to Aaric's Auguries, the part of the show where we recap our favourite theory from today's episode in the hope that we will get at least one right when book 4 comes out. What's your favourite one?
From all the stuff that I said today, I will stick with Theophanie was the one who caused this storm that was in the parapet when Violet has to cross, because she'd been chasing Lilith. She's maybe her sage at some point, and she's just trying to push her to keep channeling. Yeah,
I think you're right on that. I don't think we're going to ever have confirmation.
I think the journals, we're going to find out that maybe she made me channel. She was treating Violet in the parapet.
Yeah.
So I think all the information will be in book 4.
I think we do have, you're right. I forgot about the journals, which is weird because that's the question that's coming up. So I think my favourite is and I don't think it's that important, but that Palladium is crystallized magic, and it's the same magic that's like flowing out, and it's more like a blood clotting situation. And the fact that they are removing Palladium from the earth is not necessarily a good thing. And I think it links back to, or it's got possibly links to overuse of resources and like kind of how we could be perceived as a human race today, like using more than we can sustain. So yeah, I like that one. I don't think it's that important. I just like it as a bit of world building.
Yes, that's good.
Sticking with the theme of precognition, shall we look at the epigraph for next week?
Yeah.
Chapter 58. Most cadets believe their ability to recite historical fact will usher them onto the adept path, but it is actually the ability to observe and recount it that separates the librarians from the scribes. Colonel Daxton's Guide to Excelling in the Scribe Quadrant.
Okay. Just a few things to say about this next episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall we go into the interrogation chamber?
Okay, let's go to the interrogation chamber.
If you could find out one piece of missing information from General Sorrengails' journal, what would it be? Are you going to say the weather storm?
Come on. No, I'm going to say if she had any reference about when she was pregnant, what exactly happened to Violet. Are we actually talking about a regular fever, like something natural?
I don't think she'd write that down.
I think that everything has to be somewhere. And maybe there's a journal or a diary. And then she will just track in everything that happened.
Yeah.
Not sure that if somebody was going to wipe the memory, she had a place to come back.
Yeah. I guess, so from the journal, we know that she has missing pages because there's 3 months missing when Asher takes Violet to Umbriel. But I would like to know, and this is an obscure one, and again, I don't know if she'd write down her suspicions, but I would like to know when they figured out they couldn't trust Atos, Colonel Atos, and why. What they found out about him that meant they couldn't trust him. And why Lilith kept him close still.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely... I'm desperate to know what he's doing.
Well, you know what they say. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah, exactly. Although I do think he's just incompetent and like, I don't know.
You see, there's another example. The motivation always compensates the lack of skills.
Yeah. Good point. So this week in the interrogation chamber, we have asked previously what rune you would have in real life. But this week, if you could learn one rune that we already know about within the world of Navarre, to keep within the world of Navarre, like if you were a rider, which one would it be?
Okay. I need to have a look because there's some really good ones there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that's all we've got time for this week. Another reminder, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Faithfully Fantasy Pod. If you are Spanish speaking, you can also follow us at Fantasía Fiel. We're most active on Instagram, so come and join the conversation. We'd love to hear your theories. So if you've got a theory, send it our way. We always try to give credit on the show and on socials because, let's be honest, the best theories come from you. If you have already sent us an email and we haven't quite got to it yet, please rest assured we have a plan this week to get through the emails that we've been sent. And maybe we should try and do a bonus episode where we just talk about all the emails that we got.
Yeah, we know for a lot of theories, but there's a lot of people that send out their theories because they want to share it with the full community. Yeah. So maybe we should do something about it.
Yeah, we should. And like
what the people say.
Direct messages, we get a lot of those as well. So if you're thinking, hang on, you've said this for weeks and you haven't read mine, we do have a few to go through this week, so let's make sure we do that.
Yeah. And with this, we have just one more thing to say. Thank you for listening to Faithfully Fantasy,
the husband and wife podcast talking all things Onyx Storm.
We'll see you next week with more theories, more deep dives, and of course with more Faithfully Fantasy.
Bye.